They thought they buried you. What they actually did was plant the seed of your comeback. Left for dead, forgotten, discarded. Watch closely. The same people who cheered your fall will be forced to watch you rise. This isn't revenge. It's a quiet, unshakable rebirth, and it begins with a single stubborn breath. They believed your story was finished. They left you in pieces, shattered, dismissed like something broken beyond repair. But here's the plain truth they never understood. God does not abandon his warriors. He does not leave his children stranded in the dark. What looked to them like an ending was only the first chapter of a reconstruction that would be visible to everyone who watched you fall. God takes the ashes of your pain and, slowly and deliberately, begins to rebuild you, piece by piece, right where those who tried to destroy you can see. When that rebuilding is finished, no one will be able to look away. They will meet the very person they thought they had erased, higher, stronger, and, yes, untouchable. This is not spectacle for its own sake. It's not about making them suffer. It's about rebirth, turning scars into armor, betrayal into hard-won wisdom, and your silence into a calm, unbreakable power. The Stoics called this the highest victory, not to mirror the bitterness of those who hurt you, but to remain composed, to rise above with steady, untroubled strength. Don't mistake your present collapse for your final chapter. What you call ruin, God sees as a foundation. What you count as scars, he calls strength. And when that strength reveals itself, it will be open, undeniable, happening under the very eyes of those who mocked you, doubted you, and walked away. There comes a point when the ground beneath you gives way. Sometimes the people you trusted most, those you believed would catch you, are the ones who step aside, or worse, push. Falling into rock bottom doesn't always come from strangers. It often comes from friends who swore loyalty, but vanished when it mattered most. From family members who smiled while leaving wounds that last for years. From partners who promised forever and disappeared the moment you were no longer useful. That betrayal cuts deeper because it comes from hands you once held. The world tests the strength of the spirit by stripping away illusions. The false supports, the paper smiles, the fragile loyalties. Left alone, you face a loneliness so sharp it makes you question your worth, your purpose, even your ability to continue. That silence presses in. It stings. It asks you, plainly, who you are when none of the props remain. Here's the paradox. Rock bottom, as dark and absolute as it feels, is often where rebuilding begins. Seneca put it plainly. Sometimes even to live is an act of courage. When the world has broken you, rising the next morning is already an act of defiance. Every breath you take becomes a small rebellion against those who wished you gone. So breathe. Begin again. Let each scar remind you you survived. Let every quiet day be the workroom where you stitch yourself together, with patience, with discipline, with a refusal to become the same bitterness that hurt you. Strength born from suffering is different. It is steady, invisible at first, then unmistakable. It terrifies those who expected you to be finished, because your silence and dignity expose them for what they are. Your story is no longer merely survival. It is transformation, becoming someone they cannot touch, cannot break, and cannot control. When that moment arrives, do not look for applause. Stand calm. Let your life be the answer. You see, what looked like the end on the last page, that brutal fall, that betrayal, was not your defeat. It was the beginning of your awakening. Because in the silence, when the noise of false friends and hollow promises fades away, something remarkable happens. You begin to see clearly. You realize sometimes with a sting sharper than any blade that not everyone who claps is cheering for you. Not everyone who walks beside you is headed to the same destination. And not everyone who says, "I love you," truly understands the weight of those words. That clarity cuts deep. Yes, it hurts. But it is also sacred because it is the seed of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in Meditations. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. In the middle of heartbreak and betrayal, that wisdom feels almost unreachable. And yet, that is exactly when it matters most. For it's at your lowest point that life invites you to reclaim your power. Not from others, but from within. Think about it. If everything had always gone smoothly, if people had treated you with perfect loyalty, would you have ever discovered the depth of your resilience? Would you have learned the necessity of boundaries, the discipline of silence, the strength hidden in solitude? Probably not. Comfort doesn't teach. It only lulls us into complacency. It is suffering that sharpens the soul. And here lies the deeper truth. Those who broke you did not strike because you were weak. They struck because they saw something dangerous in you. A spark, a fire, a light they could not control. People rarely attack what they do not envy. If they tried to bury you, it was because they feared what would grow if you ever dared to rise again. Yes, the world may have chewed you up and spat you out. It may have left you shattered, doubting your worth. But every scar you carry is living proof. You endured what would have destroyed someone else. You didn't just survive the betrayal, you survived the darkest whispers in your own mind. The voices that told you it was over. And that survival means you are stronger than they ever imagined. The Stoics believed adversity is not the enemy, but the training ground. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show a person's true character." By that measure, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every crushing silence was never meant to end you. It was meant to reveal you. The pain you feel now is not punishment. It is preparation, shaping a stronger version of you that the world and your enemies are not ready to face. God has a way of using brokenness as his canvas. The cracks in your soul are not flaws. They are the very places where his light shines through. So when life knocks you into the dirt, don't mistake it for a grave. That dirt you lie in is not burial, it is soil. And from that soil, in God's timing, you will rise. And when you do, those who laughed, doubted, and betrayed you won't need to say a word. Your existence itself will become the loudest testimony. They thought you were finished, but you were only just beginning. And if you've ever wondered why they worked so hard to break you, why their smiles seemed brighter when you fell, the answer is simple. Your strength reminds them of their weakness. Your light exposes their shadows. Your potential reflects everything they failed to become. Here's the hard truth. People rarely attack what does not threaten them. If you were truly weak, irrelevant, or insignificant, they would have ignored you. But they didn't. They targeted you. And why? Because even in your silence, even in your imperfections, you carried something they could never bear to face. Possibility. Think about it carefully. They laughed when you stumbled, not because your fall was truly amusing, but because it gave them a fleeting illusion of superiority. They spread lies, not because you were unworthy, but because your honesty made their deception unbearable. They cheered at your failures, not because they truly wanted you gone, but because deep down, they feared what would happen if you ever discovered how powerful you really are. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. Today, we call it psychological projection, when people take their own insecurities and failures and throw them onto others. Marcus Aurelius saw through this with piercing clarity. He wrote, "When another blames you or hates you, or when people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside and see what sort of people they are. You will realize there is no reason to be troubled that they should hold any particular opinion about you." In other words, their hatred is not a reflection of your worth. It is a confession of their own weakness. But envy carries its own cruelty. It doesn't simply want to possess what you have. It wants to destroy it so no one else can. The envious don't seek equality. They crave your fall because only then can their own stagnation feel justified. That's why they whispered doubts into your ear, sabotaged your efforts, and smiled quietly when you stumbled. They believed that if they could break you, they could silence the living reminder of everything they were too afraid to become. Yet here lies the irony. In trying to destroy you, they revealed themselves. In trying to bury you, they exposed their fear. And in trying to silence you, they made your eventual rise unavoidable. Why? Because nothing ignites the soul like injustice. Nothing sharpens inner peace like betrayal. And nothing awakens self-worth like realizing you gave everything to people who gave you nothing in return. The greatest danger to fragile people is not your mistakes. It's your growth. When you begin to build boundaries in your mind, when you stop reacting to their insults, when you remain calm instead of lashing out, your silence becomes louder than any scream. It unsettles them. Why? Because it proves they no longer control you. And when they cannot control you, they begin to fear you. Narcissists and manipulators feed on emotional chaos. They need your reaction to feel important. But when you walk away, when you rise without bitterness, when you embody that higher mindset that builds instead of destroys, they are left powerless. Your refusal to sink to their level becomes the most humiliating defeat they can ever suffer. Understand this. God allows betrayals not to punish you, but to clear your vision, to show you who was real and who was only pretending, to strip away illusions so that when He rebuilds you, your foundation cannot be shaken. Always remember, those who want you broken don't actually want your destruction. They want your silence. But God rewrites the story. He turns your silence into strength, your resilience into testimony, and your scars into living proof that no weapon formed against you could prevail. So the next time you ask yourself, why me? Why did they do this? Remind yourself, it was never truly about you. It was always about the fire you carry, the resilience flowing in your blood, and the vast potential in your spirit. That's what terrified them. That's why they tried to crush the fire inside you. But here's what they never counted on. When God rebuilds, He does it in the open. The same people who clapped when you fell will be forced to watch when you rise. They will see with their own eyes the strength they tried so hard to kill, and your very existence. The fact that you are still breathing, still thinking, still rebuilding, will torment them more than any revenge ever could. Because your life itself is proof of victory. You are the undeniable evidence that they failed. Soon, when God lifts you higher than they ever imagined, they will finally realize the truth they feared all along. You were never broken. You were only being prepared. Those who tried to shatter you thought they were closing the book of your life. They believed betrayal, abandonment, and cruelty would silence you forever. But their fatal error was this. Pain does not erase the strong. Pain remakes them. Their biggest mistake was not underestimating your strength. It was misunderstanding the very nature of struggle itself. They thought suffering was final, that scars meant defeat, that silence meant weakness. But anyone who has walked through fire knows better. Pressure doesn't just destroy, it transforms. Diamonds are born under immense pressure. Steel is forged in fire. And the human soul is strengthened through adversity. What they didn't realize was that every blow they struck was sharpening you. Every betrayal was stripping away illusions. Every rejection was redirecting you to a higher path. They thought they were burying you. But as the old saying goes, they didn't know you were a seed. Consider the arrogance of their assumption. They believed that by leaving you broken, they would watch you fade. But in reality, all they did was create the conditions for a comeback they never saw coming. Epictetus once wrote, "Difficulties show a man what he is." In trying to destroy you, they revealed you, not only to the world, but to yourself. They awakened a power you didn't even know was inside you. Their second mistake was believing that scars make you weaker. In truth, scars are the clearest proof of survival. A bone that has been broken and healed does not return to its old fragility. It comes back stronger at the break. So it is with the spirit. Your wounds are not evidence of defeat. They are the very marks of resilience. They tell the story of someone who faced storms and refused to drown. And here lies the paradox they will never understand. The very scars they mocked will become the foundation of your strength. What once wounded you now teaches you. What once broke you now builds you. Every painful memory becomes a brick in the fortress of your new life. The Stoics taught that adversity is the training ground of virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And that is the ultimate irony. Every obstacle they placed before you became the very path that shaped your destiny. They thought they were closing doors, but in truth, they were pushing you toward the doors that mattered most. And their greatest mistake of all? They thought you would stay down. They bet on your silence, your despair, your inability to rise. They never imagined you would turn betrayal into fuel, the very fire that would carry you higher than they could ever reach. Their cruelty became your motivation, and their doubt became the proof that you were chosen for something greater. Their mockery was short-lived, because while they were laughing, you were learning. While they were plotting, you were preparing. And while they were celebrating your downfall, God was quietly rebuilding you, piece by piece, right in front of them. You see, their greatest mistake was not just underestimating you. It was underestimating God. They thought they were the authors of your story, but they forgot that your life has always been written by a higher hand. And when God chooses to rebuild someone, no betrayal, no sabotage, no malice can stop the process. That is why envy is such a deadly poison. It blinds people to reality. Instead of focusing on their own growth, they become obsessed with your downfall. But in doing so, they fall into the very trap they set for you. They waste their energy on hatred, while you invest your energy in healing. They stare at your scars while you focus on your strength. And in the end, they will be left with nothing but regret. Regret that they underestimated the wrong person. The truth is, survival alone would have been enough to prove them wrong. But you didn't just survive, you transformed. And that transformation is the punishment they never saw coming. Because nothing is more humiliating to your enemies than watching someone they tried to erase rise into someone untouchable. So let them laugh. Let them gloat. Let them celebrate your fall. Because every celebration is premature. The story is not finished. Their greatest mistake was assuming the battle was over, when in reality, it had only just begun, and when you rise, stronger, wiser, unshakable, they will have no choice but to confront the truth. They weren't breaking you. They were building you. Look closely at your scars. The world may call them flaws, reminders of failure, or evidence that you were broken. But they are none of those things. Your scars are proof of survival. They are not signs of weakness. They are the trophies of battles endured and won. When you see a scar on your body, it tells a story. It says, yes, I was wounded. Yes, I was broken. But I healed, and in healing, I became stronger than before. Even science affirms this. A broken bone, once healed, often returns harder at the fracture. The Stoics would say the same of the spirit. When the soul is tested and survives, it does not return fragile. It returns resilient. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your scars are living evidence of that truth. What was once an obstacle has now become the very foundation of your strength. What once tried to break you has been transformed into the fuel that rebuilt you. And remember this, scars are not only physical. The deepest ones are invisible. The heartbreaks, the betrayals, the moments you thought you would never recover from. These scars live in the soul, hidden in the quiet corners of memory. And yet even these are not signs of defeat. They are proof that you faced storms others could not endure, and you are still here. That fact alone makes them sacred. Here is the shift in perspective. Instead of hiding your scars, learn to wear them with pride. They are not stains. They are symbols. They declare to the world, I have been tested. I have been hurt. But I am unbreakable. This is where emotional intelligence begins. When you stop viewing your pain as shame and start seeing it as the certification of your strength. Think of the warriors in ancient times. Their scars were not hidden. They were honored. They were the living proof of battles survived. In ancient times, warriors never hid their scars. They displayed them proudly as marks of honor, as proof of courage, as living reminders of battles endured. So why should your scars be treated any differently? Each time you look at them, remind yourself, this did not end me. This made me. The world may try to convince you that being wounded makes you less. But the truth is the opposite. To be hurt and yet survive makes you more resilient, more discerning, more unshakable in your boundaries. Those scars sharpen your self-worth, teaching you never to hand out your trust cheaply again. They guard your inner peace by reminding you of everything you have already overcome. And perhaps most importantly, your scars terrify those who tried to harm you. Why? Because now they see with their own eyes that the wounds they inflicted only made you stronger. They expected you to collapse under the crushing weight of pain. Instead, you rose, scarred, yes, but wiser, tougher, unbreakable. God does not erase your scars. He sanctifies them. He transforms them into living testimonies, silent witnesses that speak louder than any words, silencing every enemy without a sound. When people look at you now, they may not understand the full depth of your pain, but they cannot deny the strength you carry. That strength is written in every scar, every healed fracture, every memory transformed into resilience. So do not despise the marks life has left on you. See them for what they are, reminders that you have endured storms others could not survive. Proof that no betrayal, no rejection, no cruelty was ever enough to erase your spirit. Your scars are not the end of your story. They are the evidence that your story is still being written. By God, by discipline, and by your unshakable will to rise again. When the world breaks you, it feels final. The betrayal, the silence, the abandonment, it all seems like proof that you have been defeated. But what if the breaking was never the end? What if it was the beginning of a deeper process? One only God and inner philosophy can reveal, because God has a way of using pain as his raw material. He takes the very moments designed to destroy you and turns them into the foundation of your renewal. And he does not rebuild you in secret. He rebuilds you openly in front of the very eyes that thought you would never rise again. This is divine justice, not loud, not vengeful, but undeniable. The same eyes that witnessed your fall will one day witness your rise. But understand this, God's work is not instant. A masterpiece is never painted overnight. The rebuilding process is slow, deliberate, intentional. Every scar becomes a brushstroke. Every tear becomes part of the canvas. Yes, it hurts. But as the Stoics remind us, suffering is never wasted. It is training. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body." Your pain is not proof of God's absence. It is proof of his craftsmanship. At the same time, Stoicism teaches you the discipline to endure while God rebuilds you. The Stoics did not pray for easier lives. They prayed for stronger minds. They understood that you cannot control the actions of others, but you can control your response. Betrayal may not be your choice, but silence can be your weapon. Rejection may not be in your hands, but resilience is. The Stoics called this the inner citadel, a fortress within the soul that no cruelty, no storm, no enemy can ever breach. And when you combine faith in God with Stoic discipline, you become untouchable. Faith gives you vision, the certainty that your suffering has purpose. Stoicism gives you tools, the ability to master your emotions and rise above every storm. What they could never see was the silent exchange between your soul and God, between your pain and philosophy. They could not see that while they mocked, you were meditating. While they celebrated your fall, you were quietly learning detachment. While they thought you were finished, you were being remade. God does not rebuild by removing pain, but by transforming it. The Stoics called this the alchemy of adversity, turning wounds into wisdom, betrayal into boundaries, and loss into clarity. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you align yourself with Stoic virtue. Every time you choose faith over despair, you align with God's plan. And in that alignment, your spirit becomes unshakable. So when you feel abandoned, remember, you are never truly alone. God is rebuilding you, and Stoicism is training you. Some people learn to use confidence as a weapon. They know that tone can override facts. That repetition can rewrite memory. But a Stoic sees through the act. A Stoic doesn't raise their voice to match another. They don't react emotionally to emotional bait. They return to principle, to clarity, to self-trust. Gaslighting only works when you believe someone else sees your life more clearly than you do. But they don't. They never did. And the moment you reclaim control over your awareness, your discipline, your reflection, you reclaim your power, not just for today, but for your mind and your life. If you've made it this far, then you already know. Liars don't just tell lies. They ask questions designed to confuse you, to make you doubt, to drag you into their version of the story, while slowly, quietly rewriting yours. These 5 questions may seem harmless at first glance, but now you see them for what they are. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The true power isn't in exposing them. It's in protecting yourself, choosing awareness over confusion, calm over chaos, truth over emotional traps. You don't need to make a scene. Just stay grounded, stay sharp. You are no one's pawn, and your mind is not up for negotiation. So next time someone throws one of these questions at you, pause, breathe, and remember what you learned here. You're not just surviving manipulation. You're rising above it. If this video helped you wake up, remember something, or finally connect the dots, hit that subscribe button. Join this space where we speak truth, sharpen instincts, and reclaim our lives. One quiet realization at a time, because when trust breaks, it's hard to rebuild. But self-trust, that's the foundation for everything. Stay strong, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next one. Instead, you begin to live with quiet confidence, letting your growth speak louder than words ever could. This is the stage of rebuilding where you no longer waste your energy fighting battles unworthy of you. You finally realize that silence is not weakness, it is strategy. You understand that walking away is not defeat, it is dominance. Because true strength is never measured by how loud you can roar, but by how steady you remain when others are screaming. And when those who once broke you see this, it terrifies them. They cannot provoke you anymore. They cannot drag you back into the chaos. They cannot guilt you into staying in places where you no longer belong. Your very refusal to engage becomes their punishment, and your boundaries become their mirror, reflecting all the ways they failed to control you. This is emotional intelligence in its purest form, not reacting to every insult, not justifying every decision, not opening every door. And this is Stoicism lived daily, detachment from noise, mastery of the self, and alignment with reason. When you combine this discipline with God's rebuilding process, you become not only unbreakable but untouchable. So remember this the next time they test you. Do not give them the reaction they crave. Stand firm, protect your boundaries, guard your inner peace, Because nothing destroys a manipulator faster than someone they can no longer provoke, and nothing glorifies God more than his warrior standing calm in the storm, unshaken, unbothered, and free. There is a unique kind of justice in life that requires no shouting, no revenge, no schemes. It is the quiet justice of your rebuilding. The very same people who once smiled at your pain will one day be forced to watch your rise. And that sight, that undeniable reality, will be the sharpest punishment they could ever receive. You see, when they broke you, they believed the story ended there. They imagined you lying in the dirt, defeated, while they carried on without guilt. They convinced themselves that you were finished, that you would never recover. But the very moment you stood back up, even shakily, their illusion began to crack. Because nothing unsettles those who hurt you more than realizing their cruelty did not destroy you. It forged you. The Stoics remind us, the best revenge is not to become like your enemy. And that is exactly why your recovery is unbearable for them. They expect anger. They expect rage. They expect you to lash out so they can point and say, "See? They're still broken." But when you rise calm, grounded, and composed, you strip away their narrative. You expose the truth. They no longer have power over you, and make no mistake, it torments them. Envy and regret are poisons that corrode from within. When they see you at peace, their own chaos only grows louder. When they see you thriving, their own stagnation suffocates them. Your silence, your self-worth, your growth, these become mirrors they cannot bear to face, because they reflect everything they are not. And this is why God rebuilds you in public. Not to humiliate your enemies, but because nothing pierces the heart more deeply than undeniable evidence. Those who mocked your fall will be forced to choke on their own laughter when they witness your rise. And here is the truth. Their punishment is not your anger. It is your absence. It is the sight of you living well without them. Think about it. If you had stayed down, they would have celebrated. If you had given up, they would have felt justified. But your recovery invalidates their entire plan. They told themselves you failed. They tried to bury you. But God turned that soil into your foundation. They tried to silence you, but your silence became your strength. They tried to strip you of worth, but your worth multiplied instead. And here's the bitter truth. They cannot undo it. Once you rise, they cannot reverse it. Once you set boundaries, they cannot breach them. Once you know your value, they cannot erase it. They are left powerless, reduced to spectators in a story they once believed they controlled. This is the essence of quiet revenge. To live so fully, so intentionally, that their memory of what they did becomes their lifelong burden. They will replay the betrayal in their minds, realizing it did not stop you. They will see your growth and feel the weight of their own emptiness. And while you walk forward in strength, they remain trapped in the shadow of their choices. The Stoics would call this justice by nature. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best way to avenge yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer." Your recovery embodies this truth. You don't need to strike back. You don't need to prove anything with words. Your very existence, rebuilt and renewed, is proof enough. So don't waste your energy plotting revenge. Don't waste your breath explaining yourself. Just rise. Rise with dignity. Rise with clarity. Rise with the calm confidence that God Himself is writing your story. Because when He rebuilds you, your enemies become your audience. And their punishment is not what you do to them, but what they must watch you become. Survival by itself is the minimum. Anyone can breathe, endure, and scrape by another day. But survival alone is not the destiny God has for you. You were not rebuilt merely to exist. You were rebuilt to thrive, to rise above mere survival and step into a life of purpose, discipline, and unstoppable growth. And here lies the difference between the broken and the reborn. Those who remain broken drag their wounds through life like chains, using them as excuses. But those who are rebuilt turn those same wounds into wings. They do not just survive betrayal, they learn from it. They do not just endure pain, they grow because of it. They do not just recover, they transcend. The Stoics taught that adversity is not something to run from, but something to embrace. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show what men are. Survival shows you are still breathing, but thriving proves you are unstoppable. It proves that what once buried you has now become the soil of your growth. It proves that what once broke you has now built you." Think about a seed in the ground. At first glance, it looks buried, trapped in darkness, forgotten. But beneath the soil, unseen by all, a transformation is taking place. In the past, you may have been easily wounded because you placed your worth in fragile hands. You let validation or rejection determine your value. You allowed the approval of others to dictate your peace. That is why betrayal once crushed you so deeply. But when you rebuild, you reclaim what was always yours, the right to define your own worth. Once you are rooted on that foundation, no one can take it away. Untouchable people live with boundaries. They know where they end and where others begin. They no longer allow manipulators to twist their reality, nor abusers to guilt them into compliance. Emotional intelligence becomes their armor. Inner peace becomes their shield. And the steady discipline of Stoicism becomes their weapon. And here's the beauty. Becoming untouchable is not about growing cold or bitter. It is about becoming free. Free from the constant urge to please everyone. Free from the fear of rejection. Free from the chaos of reacting to every insult. You don't need to fight every battle anymore. Your composure itself becomes your victory. This is why your enemies fear your rebuilding. They see you unbothered by their words, unshaken by their silence, unbreakable in your presence. They realize the game is over. For so long, they thrived on your reactions. They fed on your vulnerability. But now, you have closed the gates. They no longer have access to your emotions, your peace, or your time. And that, more than anything, is what makes you untouchable. God's role in this is profound. He does not simply heal your wounds, He fortifies them. He takes the cracks and makes them indestructible. What once broke you now protects you. What once hurt you now teaches you. And in this transformation, you embody what the Stoics always taught. Adversity doesn't just reveal character, it builds it. Becoming untouchable does not mean you stop loving, caring, or trusting. It means you love with wisdom. You care with discernment. You trust with boundaries. It means your kindness is no longer a weakness to exploit, but a strength you control. It means you no longer live at the mercy of others' approval, but firmly at the center of God's plan and your own discipline. So when they look at you now, they no longer see the person they once broke. They see someone different, someone stronger, wiser, unreachable by their old tactics. And that realization terrifies them. Because once you are untouchable, they know there is nothing left they can do to destroy you. You have become the storm they cannot silence, the wall they cannot climb, the fire they cannot extinguish. You are living proof that what was once broken can be rebuilt into something indestructible. And that is the ultimate victory. At the end of every battle, when the dust finally settles, there remains a truth no one can deny. Justice belongs to God. You may not see it in the moment of betrayal. You may not feel it while the knife is still in your back. But give it time and you will understand. God never allows cruelty to have the last word. Those who mocked you, who whispered behind your back, who watched you fall and celebrated, they thought your silence meant defeat. What they did not realize was that your silence was only making space for God's voice. While they were plotting, He was preparing. While they were laughing, He was lifting. And while they thought you were gone, He was rebuilding you piece by piece, stronger than ever before. God's justice is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It appears in undeniable ways, ways that make even your enemies pause. The same people who dismissed you, who wrote you off, will be forced to witness the very rise they said was impossible. And here lies the great irony. Their punishment is not your anger, it is your transformation. Their judgment is not your revenge, it is your success. The Stoics would say the same in their own way. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by." In other words, justice is woven into the very fabric of existence. Live with virtue, and in time, the outcome will reveal itself. Betrayal may wound you, but virtue heals you. Hatred may surround you, but inner peace protects you. And that is God's justice, not only that He lifts you higher, but that He does so openly, where no one can deny it. Your enemies won't need to hear your explanations. They will see your life. They will see your growth. They will see your calm confidence, your inner peace, your self-worth, your discipline, and that sight alone will be enough to haunt them. Do not mistake this for vengeance. Vengeance poisons the one who carries it. God's justice frees you from that burden. You don't need to chase revenge because He has already written the ending. Your role is simply to endure, to rebuild, to walk forward in strength. His role is to ensure that no betrayal, no cruelty, no weapon formed against you will ever prosper in the end. So when you doubt, when you feel like the pain was pointless, remember this: God wastes nothing. Every tear watered the soil of your future. Every scar became the foundation of your strength. Every lonely night became training for your resilience. And when the time is right, He will reveal the masterpiece He has been creating all along. And in that moment, His justice will speak louder than any revenge you could imagine. Because your enemies will not only see that you survived, they will see that you thrived. They will not only see that you healed, they will see that you became untouchable. They will not only see that you endured, they will see that you were chosen. That is the final truth. God's justice is not about punishing them. It is about elevating you. He rebuilds you not just for your sake, but so the world can witness that faith, resilience, and discipline cannot be defeated. And when you stand in that light, unbroken, unstoppable, untouchable, everyone, friend and foe alike, will know the truth. They tried to bury you, but God planted you. And His justice ensured that you grew higher than they ever dreamed. They thought your story ended when they broke you. They thought betrayal would silence you, rejection would erase you, pain would bury you. But here you are, rebuilt, renewed, reborn, stronger than they ever imagined, calmer than they can comprehend, untouchable in ways they will never reach. This is God's justice. This is Stoic strength. Your scars have become your armor. Your silence has become your weapon. Your discipline has become your freedom, and your life itself is now the testimony. No cruelty, no betrayal, no storm can stop a soul that refuses to stay broken. So when they look at you now, they will see more than survival. They will see transformation. They will see the masterpiece God has been crafting all along. And the irony? They'll have to watch it. They'll have to live with the reality that what they thought would destroy you only made you unstoppable. Remember this: you are not just a survivor. You are a warrior. You are not just a comeback. You are a revolution. And your rise is not quiet proof for yourself. It is undeniable evidence for the world. If this message spoke to your soul, share your story in the comments. Tell us how you're rebuilding, how you're rising, and how God and discipline are shaping your journey. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Through Stoicism for more wisdom on resilience, emotional intelligence, and unshakable strength. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next video that could change your perspective and your life. And if you're ready to declare it boldly, type in the comments, "God is rebuilding me stronger than ever." Because He is, and the world will see it.